Welcome to Awesome Movie Year, the podcast where we take a look.
Not quite my tempo.
No. Am I rushing or dragging?
That's what you need to tell me. Are you rushing or are you dragging? Do you know how to count?
I don't think I do, but I do know that this is the podcast
where
we take a look
1, 2, 3, 4.
An awesome year for movies, which is every year. I'm Josh Bell, film critic and writer, and my co-host who's throwing me off here.
I'm Jason Harris, a filmmaker, comedian, and I was kicked out of Schaefer 3 separate times.
Yeah, you should have been, I think. Jason. Not. I feel like the environment depicted in this film would not be conducive to successful results from either of us, really. Here.
I'd get kicked out in a day. How much of that could I put up with? Like, I think you would just walk out. I would probably,
definitely just walk out. Yes.
Yeah, I would probably get in his face.
Yeah.
So.
What exactly is going on? Well, in this season of Awesome Movie Year, we're talking about the films of 2014, and we're here at the Grand Jury Prize winner of the Sundance Film Festival, which is Damien Chazelle's Whiplash, featuring the unconventional tactics of a jazz music instructor played by J.K. Simmons, who Jason was recreating there. And
according to Chazelle, not that unconventional, because he based it on his own music teacher in high school. Maybe he heightened it somewhat.
Yeah, I mean, I hope for Damien Chazelle's sake that if his high school music teacher threw a chair at him, that he got that person fired. As Terrence Fletcher deservedly is fired here in this film. A very popular and successful film, expanded from the 2013 short, which also featured J.K. Simmons as Terrence Fletcher, the teacher. That one also starring Johnny Simmons, no relation, as the student, who is played by Miles Teller in the feature version. The short film won the jury prize for short films at the 2013 Sundance Film Festival, enabled Damien Chazelle to get financing to make the feature film version, which premiered the following year at the 2014 Sundance Festival, where it won the Grand Jury Prize, as well as the Audience Award for dramatic film, and went on to become a massive success, grossing $50.4 million on its budget of $3.3 million. So that's huge for such a small budget film. Nominated for 5 Oscars, including Best Picture, Best Adapted Screenplay for Damien Chazelle, won 3 of those. J.K. Simmons won Best Supporting Actor, also won for Best Editing and Sound Mixing, won those same 3 awards at the BAFTAs. J.K. Simmons won Best Supporting Actor at the Golden Globes, and a ton of critics groups and smaller awards. Just one of the most highly acclaimed movies of the year.
And I agree with all those wins. I mean, he's, this just catapulted Simmons to basically A-list status and really intense performance. I think the editing, which you see in all of Chazelle's movies, the kind of editing to a beat, I would say, the musicality of the editing, and obviously the sound mix is going to play a major part in it because I don't know if you know this, Josh, but this guy Chazelle, he likes music.
He likes music, and in particular, he loves jazz.
Mm-hmm. He does love jazz.
Yeah, I mean, this movie, I mean, as I've said, and I think, we'll get more into this, to me is a movie that hates music. But we know that Chazelle himself, as you said, loves music, and other films of his that are focused on music, like La La Land, or his work in the first couple episodes of that Netflix show, The Eddie, I think are much more celebratory.
No, I'm going to disagree with you. I think you're looking at it through a very narrow lens. There's, as J.K. Simmons, Terrence Fletcher explains, he's just trying to push people beyond what they think they're capable of. He's trying to find the next Charlie Parker. If everyone could be Bird, then everyone would be Bird, Josh. So I'm not saying I'm agreeing with him. I'm just saying I don't think it hates music. I think it's just showing a different way of someone's abusive love towards it.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue that Terrence Fletcher doesn't hate music, although his perspective is horrific. But I think the movie presents playing music as this grueling, unpleasant, unrewarding process.
Well, I mean, again, we're looking at it through the eyes of this conservatory and how important it is for him to win constantly. So I think it's hard to say that because we're only looking at it through that perspective.
Well, right. And that's what I'm saying is that's the perspective that the movie has. And I think it's a different perspective on music than other Chazelle movies where music or Chazelle works, where music is central and where jazz music is central. I think it's a different perspective.
Do you think you have to not put in that sweat equity to become great as a musician? Josh, former lead singer of Anime.
Yeah. Well, we can, consult Dave, who is an actual professional musician. But no, I think there's a huge difference between sweat equity, like working hard, putting in the time, practicing, and what Terrence Fletcher does to his students. There's a massive difference there. So I would agree. Yes, of course, it requires a lot of hard work. I don't think in any way it requires the treatment that Fletcher brings in this film. And I wouldn't necessarily say that the film is endorsing his perspective, although I think it comes unfortunately close to that. And that's one of the things I dislike about it. But whether it is or it isn't, I certainly disagree with that perspective.
And I disagree with you in that I don't say it's endorsing it. I'm very glad that they gave us a full explanation of why he does things the way he does things.
I mean, and I would also disagree that explanation is in any way genuine coming from the character and what we know about it.
That's fair, and that kind of helps lead to that third act, which I think is amazing. So I'm okay with that also.
Yeah. All right. Dave, did you have music teachers that treated you this way?
That would require me to have music teachers. So, yeah, I'm totally self-taught. But I was really mean to myself, though. I could say that. So
right. Now you're mean to the rest of us by putting up those Pup albums.
That's right. You got it. Yeah, and I don't agree, though, Josh. I don't think this movie hates music. I think this movie is just shining a light on people. This could be in sports. It could be in some other realm. It's people that just drive it way too far, regardless.
Drill sergeant.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, and I would sort of have, I think a similar perspective on a movie like this, which was sports focused. I mean, which is something that's mentioned a lot with this movie, like it takes the structure like that. But I think what's missing here is the element, and I don't know that this would be good because the treatment, again, Jason, as you were saying, I would have walked out in the first, I feel like within the first minute of seeing Terrence Fletcher, I'm just like, this guy is worthless and should immediately be fired. So I think the treatment there in a sports movie, you get the sense of like there's another side to it, and there's no other side to Terrence Fletcher.
No, I disagree with you again because I know what you're saying. You see like the coach with his family. Oh, look at the way he treats his kids.
Or
right?
not even that. Like where the athlete that he seemingly mistreats gets to a point where that treatment makes sense, or there's another side to that treatment. And not that it's good. I mean, I don't think any of it is ever good, but I feel like there's an additional aspect to most of those stories that's missing.
Yeah, I think you get it with the ending, but that's okay. Also, I would disagree on that his methods are worthless based on what he is able to accomplish in the film. I'm not agreeing that I want to be taught that way, but I mean, he does have a track record, Josh Schaefer, best in the country. And you make it there, you go on Lincoln Center, baby.
I would argue that achieving those results with those methods means that those results are not worth achieving. But that's
a different argument, though.
Yes. Yeah. So this movie was very well reviewed. I will continue to be down on it, but I was in the minority at the time and continue to be. It has a 94% rating on Rotten Tomatoes from critics. And even if they were critical of certain aspects, film critics were very positive about this film overall. A.O. Scott in the New York Times said, "For all its dexterity and assurance, the movie has its share of false notes and rhythmic stumbles. The contrast between Fletcher and Andrew's father, who long ago gave up his dreams of literary glory to become a teacher, is drawn a little too emphatically, as if nice guy and artist were completely antithetical. A few plot twists test the limits of credibility. Still, the battle of master and disciple is exciting and terrifying to witness, and at its best, the film can feel as wild and spontaneous, as risky and precise as a live jam session. It may get a few things wrong, but it aims at and finally achieves an authenticity at once more exalted and more primal than mere verisimilitude."
Yeah, we all watched the short this week, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't think Johnny Simmons did a bad job, but Miles Teller is definitely a step up, and I don't think you would have had that same push and pull with an actor that didn't have as much presence as Teller.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the short, to me, was enough. Like, I get it. And this movie is very repetitive and belabored and doesn't offer you anything more than the short film does. But I agree that Miles Teller has a better presence than Johnny Simmons and gives you a better balance where you want these characters to be on, if not equal footing, at least sort of getting there and, have that back and forth that doesn't come across as much.
It's definitely more of the same type, right? As that arrogant kind of asshole, as Johnny Simmons is a more meek performer. And that's okay. It just, I think you need that kind of alpha to kind of push this forward.
Right. I mean, that's what it's going for, which to me makes both of these characters extremely unlikable. But I think that's sort of the aim. Peter de Bruges in Variety said, Miles Teller drums his heart out and then some in writer-director Damien Chazelle's stellar career starter, Whiplash, which demolishes the cliches of the musical prodigy genre, investing the traditionally polite stages and rehearsal studios of a top-notch conservatory with all the psychological intensity of a battlefield or sports arena. Chazelle proves an exceptional builder of scenes, crafting loaded, need-to-succeed moments that grab our attention and hold it tight, thanks largely to co-star J.K. Simmons as the school's most intimidating instructor.
Well, really the only instructor in the school that we get to see, right?
And another issue that this never feels like a real place to me.
I mean, we do see the one scene where Andrew is in, the kind of 101 class before he gets picked into the performing band. So, but yeah, I can understand that. But I mean, it's really not about the kind of, it's not like a college movie and all encompassing. It's just about these two and their relationship, I think.
Yeah, so. But I feel like that makes it, again, it feels limited. It feels less genuine to me. Like I didn't buy into this environment in any way.
I mean, I would agree with you that had we seen like a different teacher with a much softer touch, like and getting good results, that kind of opposite would have been really helpful for, showcasing that perspective that you're talking about.
Right. And I mean, we don't there is one other teacher, as you say in the beginning. And that was another moment with Fletcher where I'm like, this guy is so terrible. Like even the other teacher, he doesn't berate him, but he just interrupts his class, has him step to the side and takes over and then walks out. And presumably this is what he is expected and allowed to do everywhere.
And I think that is not maybe less so now, but who knows? But it's not atypical of hotshot college coaches or, people who win, whether it's musical instructors or, people who bring in big money for this school, whatever, they get their way a lot. They have a ton of power in a small environment, right?
Right. But I think it's an early moment where immediately at that point, I'm like, okay, I don't want to watch a movie about this guy. I hate this guy.
No, and they're both unlikable, but I didn't mind that in this case.
Yeah. I mean, I think it can be fine. I think I have other issues with the movie, but it didn't help that I was rooting against both of the main characters. So
yeah, well, you did not get your way.
No. I mean, and I had seen this movie before, so I knew that was coming. So finally, Anne Hornaday in the Washington Post said, at its best, Whiplash conveys with pungent detail the striving of young people eager to make their bones in a Manhattan that's as foul and forbidding as it is seductive. Whiplash manages to both celebrate and question youthful drive and confidence, and Chazelle lends a Rocky-like sense of high stakes and punishing self-discipline to the easily romanticized world of music. Ultimately, the ideal of making beautiful music together looks more like a petty cockfight between two singular raging egos.
Cockfight.
Yeah. I mean, you could argue that this is also in a way a movie about toxic masculinity, right? There are essentially no female characters of note here. There's 2 scenes with Melissa Benoist as the concessions worker that Miles Teller dates and then dumps. There's basically no female students apparently in this conservatory, or at least at the level where Fletcher is teaching, and he is relentlessly sexist and homophobic in his insults that he hurls at people, and this is just the environment that is fostered in this place.
I mean, what? Like, are you saying that's inaccurate? Are there famous women musicians? I don't understand what you're
Clearly
saying.
not. Clearly not.
Obviously, some feminine wiles and touches would have been welcome. I do think that the Melissa Benoist, the girlfriend, not girlfriend character, at least she gets, to have her say.
Right. I mean, she and I was watching, there's the scene where he dumps her and is basically like, look, we can't date anymore because I would never pay attention to you and I would sacrifice everything for my career. And, you might resent that. And I feel like, we are maybe conditioned by like great musician biopics to be like, oh, the spouse will always stand by and take that. And I couldn't remember. And I was like, oh, is she just going to say like, okay, I'll accept that. But she doesn't. And I think that's good. And then when he's at his low point and he reaches back out to her, she's like, oh, I have a boyfriend now. Bye. And
no, that was good.
That.
Yeah, that was good. That's how it should have been.
Right.
And, I think as in my 20s, I definitely could have paid more attention to a girlfriend or two when I was pursuing certain career aspects. And I think that's one of the things that works here is he's young, he's brash, he thinks the whole, the world is his, and you have to learn those lessons by falling down a lot of the time.
Yeah, but nobody learns any lessons in this movie. Except maybe Melissa Benoist. She learns not to date asshole musicians. And hopefully the guy that she's dating when he calls her it treats her better. But certainly the main characters learn nothing.
Josh, I have another quote from Wally Tumbleshot in Snap and Snare. He said, "Teet-ta, teet-ta, 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 teet-ta."
Yeah, that was good. That was
some
good scatting there. I think that was, I don't know if Terrence Fletcher would approve, but I liked it.
When I was in elementary school band, this is a pretty cool story. My grandfather got me like this really, really old saxophone that looks like it was 50 years older than every other one. And the first day I got into band, my grandfather took me to class, and my band teacher was one of his band leaders when my grandfather was performing in the Catskills. So I don't think they knew that they were going to run into each other, but it was pretty cool to be in the band and see that, this man, Mr. Paley, used to perform with my grandfather all the time.
I don't think I knew that you played the saxophone, Jason. How good were you at the saxophone?
I was second chair. I wasn't bad, to be honest with you. And if I had kind of pushed, maybe I could have taken Justin Murator out of first chair. But the story that will make more sense to you about me, Josh, is when we did our sixth grade concert. You sit next to first chair, second chair. And I had just watched that. I don't know if you remember that old Warner Brothers cartoon with the big cat that keeps picking on the little cats and making them get food, right? And then you forgot the gravy, and he beats him up, right? And then the cat ends up in the hospital for eating too much, right? And the two little cats come in and they say, "This time we didn't forget the gravy," and they just funnel it into his giant exploding belly. And all throughout the concert, I just kept whispering to Justin Murator, "This time we didn't forget the gravy," trying to get him to break while he was on stage.
What you were talking
He knew what I was talking about, but he was also like, "This is totally inappropriate, given that we're in a concert in front of a live audience." So
yeah,
excellent.
That's true. So, Dave, did you play music in elementary school?
No, I had some piano lessons at some point, but no, I was never really much of a musician in the classical sense. I think I did some kind of Boy Scouts, playing for the old people, but I could play chopsticks. It was nothing, So
yeah.
What about you, Josh?
Well, I was never in band or anything in school, but I did take guitar lessons for years, which I hated, even though I love music and I love guitars. But I was very bad at it, and I was pushed in. My parents decided that, I needed to do some extracurricular activities. So that was what I was stuck with. And eventually they gave up on forcing me, and I just kind of kept doing it because the guitar teacher was a nice guy and whatever. But I remember I did it for 5 years, and by the end, the teacher told me to stop because I wasn't going to get any better, essentially.
Wow,
he's
just
we're wasting our time here.
Man,
so
I took guitar in college, and I think we were taught the complete wrong way. It was maybe a classical guitarist, and he taught us notes before chords. And I think if we had learned chords first, it would have been a much easier progression, and I'd probably be shredding it on big stages everywhere.
And I think that's it's like almost like a meme at this point, but like guitar teachers are terrible because they're all just like, and then just do this. Like, that's how every guitar class is. So.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that my guitar, like I can play a handful of things on the guitar. I still remember some chords and whatever, and it kind of got fun more when I stopped caring about it, and it was just like, hey, whatever. But shout out to Gary Cook. He was a cool guy. I still have a CD by his band, The Resistance, that were this like sort of 80s hair metal style hard rock that I enjoyed. So
good stuff.
Cook. So Jason, did you see this movie when it first was released?
Yeah, I loved it then. I love it now. At the time, I think I was writing a screenplay about stand-up comedy and like the process of building an act. And I thought this was one of the first movies that actually, or a great example of a movie that got the process right and how hard it is, and showcasing that process more than anything else. That's what this does really well. It showcases that, and it's not an easy thing to accomplish. So I think that's why I'm saying that editing and just pacing of this is really, really good for me.
Did you have like a comedy mentor ever who treated you like Terrence Fletcher?
I need one, obviously. So I don't know if I ever had a comedy mentor. It would be good. I mean, hopefully, one of the best compliments I ever got is when like younger comedians say that like they consider me like a big brother and I treat them well. That's all. Honestly, at this point, I want three things in comedy. You're funny, you're honest, you treat people well. That's really it.
So you don't want to be the Terrence Fletcher of comedy?
No, I couldn't do that, Josh. We make jokes on the podcast, but that's not me, man. Honestly, it would be exhausting.
Yeah. It seems miserable to be Terrence Fletcher, but I feel like that's one thing that the movie never gets into and could have. I also saw this. I think I saw it. I don't know if I saw it in its initial theatrical release. I feel like I probably watched this in an end of year award season catch up sort of mode and had, heard all the hype since January at Sundance. And then it was, November, December, maybe, and was extremely disappointed in it. And I liked it even less this time. And I'm mixed on Chazelle, which I'm sure we'll get into more later. So I'm not just like, oh, he sucks. I think some of his stuff is really good, but this movie just does not work for me on any level.
I'm all in on. I'm on Team Dave on this one. I'm all in on Chazelle. I watched every movie of his this week, and I'm like, this is exactly what I want from a director. Even if not everything I love or everything works, like I talk about it all the time on both of our podcast and Dave's podcast. This dude never takes a soft swing. He just takes huge swings, and sometimes they don't work, but like. It's always interesting to me so far. We'll see what happens next.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly appreciate, his ambition in a way mirrors the ambition of Andrew, Miles Teller's character in this movie. And, for the most part, I would agree with you, even if I don't like the result. So, Dave, did you see this when it was first out?
I did. And I loved it then, but I loved it even more this time around. And it kind of did set with me all these years. And I always talked about it in high regard. This is one of the better movies of the last 20 years. But now it's really solidified.
Yeah. Well, I can be the outlier on this.
You are.
Yeah.
Jason, anything else you want to say about the background of this movie?
Well, we keep talking about the short film, and I watched Chazelle's first movie this week, Guy and Madeline on a Park Bench, which is but it's amazing to go from that to this short, which was his short film was exec produced by Jason Blum and Jason Reitman, and we know Blum exec produced this, so it seems like he was almost anointed to be one of these big guys, and I think he's delivered in that regard.
Right. I mean, I think a potential criticism of him is that he took his own anointment to heart, and I think you can see that maybe a bit in Babylon. But as you said, Jason, I mean, sometimes that level of confidence and arrogance is what you need, and it's worked out for him very well in some circumstances, and less so in others. And I'm sure he'll keep going with it. We think of great filmmakers like Francis Ford Coppola or something who have these giant boondoggles, but it's because they believed wholeheartedly in whatever vision they had at the moment. And he does that too.
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting for me. I know Dave loves Babylon. I'm mixed on it, but I'm just like, what the hell, man? Like, this dude's just going. He's either like, I'm hitting a home run or I'm striking out, and I like love that.
Yeah.
Right. He definitely has that perspective. So we'll come back and talk more of our general thoughts on Whiplash. Welcome back to Awesome Movie Year. In this episode of our season on the films of 2014, we are talking about Sundance Film Festival Grand Jury Prize winner Whiplash from Damien Chazelle. And everybody likes it but me, apparently.
Josh, what do you think Schaefer Conservatory is?
Well, I mean, I've seen references to that. It's like Juilliard. So I'm guessing that. I'm not super, I mean, obviously I've heard of Juilliard, but I'm not familiar with a lot of music conservatories. So that sounds right to me.
So the reason I asked that, Josh, is because I agreed with you. It looks like New York. It feels like New York. And when I saw that it was all shot in LA, or read that it was all shot in LA, I was like, whoa, they did usually you cheat New York with like a Toronto or a Montreal, but they really did a good job of cheating New York on this one, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's meant to be New York, right?
Yeah.
I mean, whether the school is meant to be Juilliard or some combination of other schools or whatever, I don't know. But it's clear that the characters are meant to be living in New York. So yeah, I agree. It seemed authentically New York to me. But, that's as someone who's visited New York a handful of times. So I'm certainly not an expert. When they fake New York with Toronto, I'm like, yeah, it seems right.
No, I mean, this does look and feel like New York, and it had that feel of like that kind of manic energy and, disregard for everything else other than the end goal here. So, I think what's interesting to me, Josh, is that you and we've had this conversation on the podcast before. If you can, and to me, it's fine for the most part. Like, can you like a movie without rooting for a character, for any character? And it's tough to pull off because, like, I'm with you on that. Like, I could see disliking everyone except Paul Reiser. You can't dislike Paul Reiser.
Paul Reiser is kind of passive aggressively unsupportive of his son's
No, he's supportive. He wants him to be a healthy, a mentally fit man. He doesn't want him to deal with all that pain.
Right. No, that's true that he doesn't want him to deal with the pain. And we get the scene where after, he's gotten in the car crash, and which is so absurd, that whole sequence, and then goes on stage. And Paul Reiser, the dad, is clearly concerned for his well-being, and that's why they meet with that lawyer who's trying to get Fletcher fired. But before then, when he's maybe not aware of the extreme treatment, and it's just the general, like, my son wants to be a jazz drummer and he's in this music conservatory, it doesn't seem like he's that supportive of it. He's like, maybe what else are you going to do? And we get that extremely on-the-nose dinner scene where Andrew goes home and he has dinner with his family, like I think it's like his aunt and uncle or something, and their sons who are like, one's like a football player and the other one's I don't know, what is he, like the student body president, or just like all these like ridiculous cliches of the overachievers and how his jazz drumming achievement is downplayed. And it seems like the dad plays into that.
Well, it's not downplayed. It's that Andrew's such a dickhole to his cousins for no reason, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, he's an overt asshole to the cousins, but they've already sort of passive aggressively dismissed his passion for music.
I mean, to me, I took it less of that and more of like, not a dismissal, but like, cool, we think what you're doing is cool, but we maybe don't understand as much as what you want us to understand is why it's so important. At the same time, I mean, the dude ran back like a 90-yard punt return. That's pretty good. You don't have to knock him on that just because it's D3, Andrew.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I did like that but I mean, I think the idea there, and again, I feel like it's heavy-handedly presented, is that like Andrew's achievement at being like, a top drummer at this like incredibly prestigious music school is less impressive than his cousin's achievement at being like a great football player at like a nothing, a school that's like nothing in terms of football.
Well, that probably is, to me, what that's talking about is the lack of understanding, not the kind of diminishment of it.
Well, right. I mean, I don't think it's like they don't understand and they don't want to understand and they don't care. And the dad doesn't really step in. So I didn't really like Paul Reiser's character much. I mean, he's less like in your face obnoxious than Fletcher or Andrew, but I didn't find him particularly likable either. Again, I feel like Melissa Benoist is the only one, and she's barely in it.
Paul Reiser's not unlikable. I think you could say he's a little maybe one-dimensional, but
That too, which is also every character in this film.
So, well, I just think we're seeing it from different sides of the coin here, Josh. So, I mean, I also like the, when he does quit, I thought that was good too, to see him, kind of lose everything and it'd been nice to see a little more of him trying to figure himself out outside of music.
Yeah, I mean, and he doesn't he has a remarkably good cushion for all the insults that Fletcher lobs at his dad for just being a high school teacher. Somehow they've got the resources to give Andrew his own apartment in New York City while he's just applying to more colleges and figuring things out. He does not seem to be struggling particularly in that realm. And I mean, presumably, if you can get into a major music conservatory, not only do you need to be good at playing music, but you do need good grades and test scores and stuff like that. I mean, they are real colleges. So he'll be fine to get into Fordham or whatever, where Melissa Benoist's character goes. So I never got a sense of struggle from him on that at all. Which in a weird way makes it less believable when he's so eager to jump at the chance to return to playing with this guy who mistreated him so much.
The struggle is nothing is at that level. So that's why he's so obsessed with it, right? Going to Fordham and playing in the Fordham school band is not the same as playing in the Schaefer, show band and everything. Also, he obviously thinks this dude is the best chance at becoming great, and he already is great. He idolizes him in a way, like a lot of these students do, for better or worse. So that's why I think they would all kind of do that. Didn't you ever have a professor in college who was super charismatic and had kind of acolytes who would kind of do whatever they asked for, or something like that?
Yeah, usually those were sexual abusers. I feel eventually.
I mean,
yes, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about. I mean, I remember a religion professor, and I wasn't part of this because, again, he was a younger male professor, and I feel like he did have a lot of female acolytes. And as far as I'm aware, was never accused of any inappropriate behavior. But yeah, there are people like that. But I don't know. I don't think that's what Fletcher is like. Those people generally, if they're liked, it's for the opposite reason of Fletcher here. They are seen to be friendly. They're seen to be supportive. That's how they draw people in, is that they try to be your buddy or whatever.
I'll give you an example as a sports fan, right? Because I think the sports analogy is pretty apt for this, right? Bobby Knight, considered one of the greatest coaches in college basketball history. And people love him and would run through walls for him. But I don't think anyone was oh, he was so warm and fuzzy. And he got in trouble and got fired for, getting physical, whether it's grabbing a kid by the shoulder or slapping him. We saw Fletcher slap Andrew while he's on the drums. So, if this movie was made in the 70s and instead of 2014, maybe that would have been a little more prevalent. I mean, kind of reminds me of the great Santini, the Robert Duvall character. But I do think in competitive fields, whether it's music or sports, people get a little more leeway if their results, if the ends, quote unquote, justify the means.
Right. I mean, but I feel like they shouldn't. And it's so obvious. Fletcher is so terrible.
Well, yeah, he's physically abusive from the first time we see him, right?
Right, right. And I feel like that if it was more insidious, it wasn't obvious to the administration, but within the first few minutes, yeah, he's slapping people, he's throwing stuff at them. He's so obviously a liability that he should have been fired long ago.
But he keeps winning, and that's sometimes, I mean, and I'm saying, this happens in college sports all the time, right? You keep winning and people sweep stuff under the rug for you.
Right, right. Oh. So, and I mean, my other issue, as I was saying before with that character, is that he's not a character. He's just a caricature of a monster. Any moment that we get that might theoretically provide insight into him as a human being turns out to be false. And so he's essentially just a sociopath. He's a horror movie villain, but he's not presented that way. And it's very frustrating.
I mean, Simmons is so charismatic. I could say there's the scene where Neiman sees Fletcher with maybe a former student and that student's daughter. And, he's super nice to this little daughter who's probably 5 years old. Oh, are you going to be the piano player in my band? Can you make me that promise? So I am not disagreeing. That would have been great to see like him on a date, or him being nice to his mom or whatever it's going to be, right? Like, but yeah, we didn't get that. I think that's a totally fair criticism.
Yeah, I mean, and I think even the moments where theoretically that's happening, I mean, you have the big scene where he gets all emotional because he says this former student has died in a car crash, and he plays a recording of this guy's playing and is getting all choked up, and you think, oh, maybe this is, see, he did care, he's keeps that all inside, but he kept track of this former student, and he's really broken up over his death. And then we learn later that the guy didn't die in a car crash, that he died by suicide because of the way he was pushed by Fletcher. And you realize this is all a performance. Or when, they have the scene where Andrew goes to see him play in the little jazz club and they have a drink together and they seem to be speaking as equals, it's all just a wind up so that he can trick Andrew and humiliate him later on.
But that is so awesome.
It is, and I don't know if we want to get into the ending yet, but I have so many issues with how that plays out.
I think it's such a great act 3, man. So we can get into it. Spoilers. Watch Whiplash right now.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just meant if there was anything else before then. But so I just wanted to ask you, Jason, like on a logistical level, as the guy who's always the logic police of every movie, one thing that happens. So the idea, right, is that they meet in the bar, they have a drink, they seem like they're sort of like on equalish footing or whatever. And then Fletcher is like, hey, by the way, I'm performing at this big deal jazz festival at Lincoln Center and I need a drummer. Do you want to be the drummer? And of course, this is the tool for him to theoretically humiliate Andrew. So Andrew shows up at the performance and is ready to perform and gets tricked, is like, hey, I thought I was going to be performing this song, but we're doing this other song that I don't know. And would they not have ever rehearsed before this performance? Like, there's a whole band of other people, and this is like meant to be a big deal. That's the whole point, is that it's a really big deal event, and that's why Andrew's going to be extra humiliated. And yet he just shows up on the day of the performance like, okay, here I am. Like, we didn't ever practice. It's ridiculous.
That's totally fair. I got out logic there.
Well, I will say we know how much of a spell Fletcher has over his students. Like, he could have just said, this guy can do it, and they will listen.
I mean, I guess, but did they practice with a different drummer?
Probably.
Well, he did say that. Yeah. He said that they practice. He said, so, I mean, if we're going to break it down timeline wise to make the logic count, right? He's like, the drummer we have isn't cutting it. So the band's already performed all of these things, right? Yeah. So if you're going to be like, hey, man, it's a Hail Mary, it's last minute, all the songs. So just, we don't have time to rehearse with you. Just come on in and you're going to kill it. Like, I could see that making sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, obviously that's the way it's meant to be because we have to set it up that way. But I just think, and as I always say when we bring up these logic things, I'm like, if I was immersed in the movie and the characters and the drama, I wouldn't be thinking about these things. And, to me, it's a sign that the movie is already failing when it's making me stop and wonder, like, wait, how does this work exactly? Like, how does this make sense within the world that this movie is?
What I thought you were going to ask is if Neiman just, boffs the whole thing, doesn't that reflect badly on Fletcher at that point?
Well, that too. And I think there was one review where they mentioned that at one point as well, that, he's torpedoing his own chance at a sort of comeback, right? Because he's been fired from his teaching job. He doesn't get to go to these competitions anymore. But here's this prestigious festival and he's put together his own band. But he looks like an idiot if his drummer doesn't know what he's doing. And I mean, I guess you could argue that that's like the downfall of this guy, is that he becomes so fixated on taking down Andrew, but that's not how he's presented. And especially that's not how he's presented in the ending, where Andrew, kind of takes charge and starts killing it with the drum performance on the other song and his big old drum solo. And Fletcher is like, oh yeah, now I'm all into this and I don't want to take you down anymore because you're so good.
Yeah,
and
see, his methods work, Josh.
No, like, also my other question is, Andrew a good drummer actually?
Well, I mean, I think so, because they keep getting gigs and everything like that.
Right. So. But I don't know. I mean, I'm not a jazz expert by any means, but especially in that big ass drum solo that he does in the finale, I'm like, this is kind of annoying. I'm not into this. I would not be into this if I were in the audience at this event. So, I mean, Dave, as the musician here, what do you think?
Oh, I think he's great. Yeah, I mean, there's only certain kinds of jazz that I like, but like the more percussive stuff like that, I'm into, and I thought he was great. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I he's definitely is meant to be great, and Miles Teller, was able to play the drums a bit, and then he's doubled by actual professional jazz drummers, so it definitely is meant to be good drumming. But I think again, because I was so like, what even is this movie? I was like, I buy into it so little that I no longer even believe that this guy is a good musician.
Well, I mean, what's so interesting about that is, like you said, 94% on Rotten Tomatoes, a multi-time award winner, right? Like, so yeah, it's you are in the deep minority on this one.
Right. Well, I mean, and I was on, I think, just a few episodes ago, we talked about Force Majeure, which we all were mixed to negative on, and we're in the minority on that. So, it happens.
Yeah.
I think it's about to happen again.
On the next one, yeah, maybe.
Episode. So, yeah. But so I've been ragging on this, but are there any other, what other aspects of it, Jason, did you think were brilliant that we haven't discussed?
Well, to me, I mean, I really loved all the process stuff. I really loved seeing what he was willing to, or what he had to go through to get there. I did like we said, the stuff where, no, you don't get the girl. You were an a-hole. You don't get her, know? So, I mean, but what else do you want me to say? That's the whole movie, Josh.
I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to give you a chance to
no, I mean, obviously
this film.
Yeah,
you like
he has a love of music, and that shines through, even though you say, and a knowledge of music, which I think is helpful, but also the way those scenes are shot are, I think, really good. And I mean, I'd have to go back and watch it again, but Chazelle loves these like crazy long shots that go all over a room. And I think that's a blueprint that he probably started here that really bleeds into his future films.
Yeah, I mean, I will say visually, it's successful on that front, and it could be, it gives a sense of that battlefield, as one of those reviews said, or sports arena feel to something that is the realm of a more staid environment usually. And I definitely did like the whole arc with the girlfriend. I feel like that was the one dramatically satisfying aspect of the film, which is a very small aspect, but it is there.
I like that he went to see movies with his dad.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, went to see Rafifi, and I forget what else they watched.
Was it Battle Out of Algiers, maybe something?
Yeah, they're going to those the repertory theater in New York City there. So, and Dave, I know you like this even more. Is there anything else about it that speaks to you as a musician?
Well, I think just the idea of these asshole gatekeepers that are there in every form of entertainment and other areas too, but especially in entertainment. And because they get so precious about everything, but if you really want to get to that greatness, you have to deal with these people. And I think that is just something that is so well captured here. And, does everything make 100% sense in the way that I feel like you want here, Josh? Maybe not necessarily, but I do think it kind of gets into that mindset of this one track mind. I mean, we see this really great relationship blossoming between him and the girlfriend, and he just throws it all away because it's just, that is the only thing he can really focus on. And I think that all kind of adds to that whole idea of this just completely overtakes someone if they actually want to, make it to some next level in music.
Yeah, I mean, I would, as much as I just said I like the arc with the girlfriend the best, I never got the sense that they had a great relationship. Like the one scene where they're on a date at the pizza place, they're having just a bunch of boring, awkward small talk. It does not seem like they're hitting it off in any way.
I thought they were.
And, obviously they do, because we kind of cut to then sometime later where they've been dating and then he breaks up with her. But I didn't get that. I liked it more as the idea, like Jason, like you were saying, no, you're an asshole, so you don't just get to get the girl. She's not just waiting for you. I like that aspect of it.
Yeah.
You guys notice that he, in a way, repeats that scene in La La Land, right? Where towards the end, Sebastian is starting to tour, and then the Emma Stone character gets the big audition, and they kind of made up, and she's like, what are we going to do? And he's like, well, we're not going to do anything because you have to give it your all. This is going to be you for the next, however long. You have to go all in on it. So, I mean, these are just themes, I think, that Babylon even First Man, right? He's playing with themes of what it takes to achieve greatness over and over again.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen any of those movies since they were first released, so I don't remember every detail. But I feel like in La La Land, even though they don't end up together, right? Spoiler for La La Land,
Right,
but they care about each other on a much deeper and more meaningful level. And this isn't not, to be fair, this is not a movie about Andrew's relationship with his girlfriend,
right.
Whereas La La Land is about that. But I got a better sense of those characters having deeper feelings for each other and for being invested in their relationship. Like, I think one of the reasons that Andrew is able to just do that breakup is because he isn't invested in the relationship in the first place. It's just something.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, but he's not really invested in anything other than what he's doing, right? So that's the point, I think. So
yeah. Well, I feel like we should rate this out of 5 out of chairs thrown at your head.
5 not my tempos.
5 not my tempos. Yeah.
It gets 4 not my tempos for me. I love this movie, man. I think it's great.
Yeah,
so I'm into it.
I give it 2 out of 5 not my tempos, which is lower than I rated it before. I just don't find anything.
Also lower than 4.
Lower than 4.
Yeah.
And I mean, I had given it a 2.5 on Letterboxd when I first saw it. And I feel like maybe at that time I was more like trying to be open, because it was a big movie of the year. And now I'm just like, yeah, I don't need to give this movie the benefit of the doubt because it just doesn't work for me. So, Dave, how do you rate this?
You guys gave it nice, easy to play, even tempos. I'm going with an odd tempo with 5 out of 5 for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Is this like your number one movie of 2014 or?
It might actually be. We'll see when I rewatch John Wick, but yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's not. I think that's a completely reasonable pick for number one movie of 2014.
It was certainly many critics' picks and other people's picks as well. So we'll come back and talk about the legacy of Whiplash. Welcome back to Awesome Movie Year. In this episode of our season on the films of 2014, we are talking about Damien Chazelle's Whiplash, winner of the Grand Jury Prize at Sundance, and really the launching pad for Damien Chazelle's whole career, as we've kind of gotten into a bit. I mean, he had made one smaller independent film before this and the Whiplash short film, but this was the one that got him so much attention and launched him into A-list status. The next movie he made was La La Land, where he won an Oscar for Best Director. That movie was nominated for numerous Oscars.
Is he the youngest ever to win Best Director?
I think
Oscar?
He is. I think that was what...
it was like 32. And when he made this, he was 29.
Right.
Whether you like it or not, I think this shows a kind of prodigy-like maturity for, being 29. And, if you look back at like early Spielberg or Scorsese, you'd be like, these guys are ahead of their years. Paul Thomas Anderson, Boogie Nights is his second movie. This is a really, really accomplished film for a 29-year-old.
Yeah, I mean, and I think especially when he followed this up with La La Land, there was a lot of talk about how he was the next, one of those people that you mentioned. And I don't think that he is, in part because he is too confident in a way, right? He's too self-confident, and he makes something like Babylon that's a complete boondoggle. And so that's why I feel like he's more comparable to Coppola. And not that Coppola isn't great, but Coppola isn't great in the mode of like Spielberg or Scorsese, where they have this consistency and they are just these workhorses who keep churning out, one solid movie after another. And Chazelle is all over the place.
Well, I mean, 1941's a boondoggle,
true,
correct?
True.
So, and Scorsese,
New York, as we
right,
did a whole
exactly.
episode on,
So you got all that stuff. I mean, and I don't know about Dave, but I know me and you both really like First Man, which is really well shot, and it's it's literally about the first man on the moon, right? So that they're going to land on the moon, right? Like history has already taught us that, and yet somehow the way he presents it, the editing, the pacing, the way it's shot, the music, really, really ratchets up the stakes and the tension there. So I think he's super talented. And Babylon, I think, is the most kind of controversial of those. It got trashed, but then had like a real kind of underground swell led by Dave,
yes,
and others. When I watched it, I was like, yo, this is absolutely insane. And I love it. it needed to be edited. It's if that had been 2 hours and 20 minutes instead of 3 hours and 10 minutes, I think it might have been incredible.
I mean, I feel like it would have had to be edited, not just time-wise, but entire storylines would need to be removed, and it would be a different movie. And I'm sure he wouldn't have wanted to do that. And I mean, I agree with you on First Man. I did think First Man was really good, and I think Damien Chazelle is a really good stylist. And it's interesting that First Man is the only movie that he directed and didn't write. And I wonder if that is a better position, or as I was saying to you, Jason, the movies of his I like the most are that which he directed but didn't write. And I know a movie I know Dave likes as well, Grand Piano, that he wrote but didn't direct, which is just like basically the horror movie version of Whiplash. And to me, it shows you how the tone of Whiplash is misguided and the tone of Grand Piano is correct. But I feel like Babylon is the example of a movie where he's the writer and the director, and he had so much success that he's given complete free reign to do whatever he wants. And it's this giant mess. And the good is so dwarfed by the terrible, awful decision making in that film, and like long sequences that are just absolutely dreadful, that I can't endorse it.
So the thing is, you have to remember what was going on, and we still don't really know, right? Like, this was supposed to be like the last of the big checks for the major directors, as Hollywood's becoming just a stupid tech company instead of a company for directors. So I think this was his, like, I'm going to take the biggest of the big swings movies. Yeah. And that's why people really respond to it.
Right. It is. But I feel like that's fine. But to me, it's proof that his big swing is a miss. You know?
But I think these are all big swings, except, I mean, if you've seen, like, I watched Guy and Madeline on a park bench, right?
Right.
And
which I have not seen.
And it's and it's, it's like, it doesn't take the chances that all the rest of these take. And if you see that, there's no way you're like, dude, in a few years he's going to make Whiplash. Like, it's such a huge jump. So it's really interesting to see his trajectory. I didn't see anything that he has going on next, so I'm interested to see what he does next.
Yeah, I think he had a couple projects that got stalled out, and I don't know. I mean, I'm sure even with the failure of Babylon, he has such a track record that he'll get something going. And I feel like in a way it's good that whatever he gets going next will be more constrained.
I agree. Take it down.
But maybe Dave, you love Babylon.
Oh, I mean, it's so much fun. And also when Jason was watching it, he texted me that he was watching it. I told him that most people who claim that it's this big, terrible movie were out within the first 15 minutes. And I think if you're out within the first 15 minutes, you're just not going to be there for the rest of the movie. And I agree, it's too long. Like, that's the biggest problem with it. It definitely needed editing, but it's just, that swing is, that's what I live for. You know what I mean?
That's what he lives for. Yeah. Take that, Gina.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, and I know this is not an episode about Babylon, but I felt like, I was out. I mean, the first 15 or less, I mean, the scene of the elephant shitting on the camera is in like the first 5 minutes or something, I think. Yeah. And at that moment I was like, oh boy, but I got back in. There are sequences in that movie that are great. Later on, all the silent movie stuff with shooting outside, and when it was about the process. And obviously, I love that era of cinema, and I thought that was fascinating. And then later in the movie, the whole Tobey Maguire sequence is just so unbelievably bad.
I think that's totally fair. And really unnecessary.
Yeah. So I mean, I feel like it lost me, and then it kind of had me, and then it lost me even worse. So yeah. Right. But sure, I'll be curious to see what Chazelle does next. This was a big breakout for Miles Teller as well. I feel like he's a big star, but he's not quite an A-list star. He had his big blockbuster swing with the really awful Fantastic Four movie from 2015 by Josh Trank, which I watched recently because of the new one and is really, really, really bad. But, he does a lot of solid stuff. I mean, he had a substantial role in Top Gun Maverick, which people love. I thought The Gorge from earlier this year with him and Anya Taylor-Joy was really underrated, like a cool sci-fi horror action romance hybrid that does a lot of things and I think does them well. He's got Eternity coming up later this year, which is a sort of looks like an Oscar baity romance sci-fi
after death love triangle,
right?
Josh.
With Elizabeth Olsen. So, he's up there, but I feel like he's not quite as far up there as people thought he would.
Well, I mean, he did all those Divergent and whatever movies.
Yeah, he
did
do those.
I think he'll get there. I really like The Spectacular Now.
Yeah, that was good. I think that was actually just before this. But, I mean, I don't think he's a bad actor. I think he also got a reputation as being kind of an arrogant dick. And that doesn't help. But I mean, it's okay, but you have to back it up by being really, really good in everything and being really, really successful. And he's not quite there. But I did read somewhere that he was trying to pitch his own like spin-off for his Top Gun Maverick character. And I was like, this is just like in no world does that character need his own movie. Like Top Gun doesn't exist without Maverick. And if you don't get that, then, you're deluded.
Josh, has any Oscar winner since or J.K. Simmons made less good movies since winning their Oscar? And that's sad to say because he's so good.
Junior comes to mind.
Oh, God.
I just think he's so good, and he was making so many good movies before this. And I can't think of like one really good movie he's been in since this.
Well, I mean, I think he has. I mean, I love Palm Springs, and he's really good in Palm Springs.
Oh yeah, that's a great movie. Yeah.
And he's fun in his the superhero stuff that he does, even though he's like not a major part of those movies. But I think the thing is, like you said, it catapulted him, but it in a way didn't. And that's good. He was an incredibly prolific character actor before this, and he remains an incredibly prolific character actor now. I mean, in 2014 alone, he was in 8 movies, so this was just another part for him. And, he just kind of keeps doing what is available to him, which I think is admirable. And that's what you do as a character actor. He did get nominated again for an Oscar for Being the Ricardos, which is a random thing to have happened. But, I mean, I think, Jason, you and I were talking about like, oh, is this like a great role? Like he does just as well here as he does in much worse material. Like I reviewed maybe it was last year or earlier this year, some terrible B-movie thriller for my VOD column called You Can't Run Forever, where he plays like a psychopath villain chasing the main character through the woods. And he's just as good in that as he is in Whiplash.
Because he's always
kind
good.
Of like a consistency. Yeah.
But honestly, I'm going to disagree with you and I'm going to take this in a completely weird, unexpected direction here, right? We just recorded Happy Gilmore 2 for piecing it together, right? And one of my big issues with Happy Gilmore 2 is that Benny Safdie, who plays the villain, is just not up to task of like playing such a charismatic, kind of huge personality. If you had someone in the Terrence role here, the Fletcher role, that didn't bring it like J.K. Simmons, this whole movie falls apart. Mm-hmm. So I think that shows like just how good he is and can be. I love him in Juno. I love him in I Love You, Man. He's great in just about everything. I just think like we thought we were getting this ascent afterwards, and instead we get him as muscle Santa Claus in Red One, and nobody wants that.
But what I'm saying is that he's not the kind of guy who's going to have that ascent because he's so consistent, because he's giving just as good a performance here that he's given in much less heralded films. He's exactly where he's always going to be. And that's great. Like if I see some shitty movie and he happens to be in it, I'm like, okay, well, at least he'll be a bright spot in it. But that's what he's always been.
I marked down of his future projects, Heart of the Beast with Brad Pitt, a former Navy SEAL and his retired combat dog, attempt to return to civilization after a catastrophic accident deep in the Alaskan wilderness. Don't quote me on this, but I don't think he plays the combat dog.
No, probably not. And that doesn't sound like a very good movie, but I'm sure he'll do a good job in whatever part that he plays.
Hey, who's a solid player, Josh, solid character actor? That Paul Reiser. I mean, the character is always Paul Reiser, but he's never bad in anything. He always does the job well. Aliens, Stranger Things, My Two Dads, Diner. He's a solid comedian actor. That guy.
He's affable, I think. Is
Mad About You.
Yeah. There was a revival of Mad About You. Nobody watched that, but
nobody was asking for that.
No. But I'm sure I didn't watch it either. But I'm sure he was affable.
But he's a good workman, like, hey, we need a dad, we need a doctor, we need, he always delivers. He never misses the mark on that stuff.
Yeah. No, totally. He's reliable. And I think that's why, you plug him into this role that doesn't have much to it. And he does what he's called on to do.
And a lot of comedians, though, would try to like, hey, look at me, right? And he never does that. He just does what's required of the role. And I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, totally. I'm pro Reiser.
Yeah. We rise with Reiser.
Yes.
Anything else you want to say about the legacy?
Well, did you want to, say anything about Melissa Benoist since you talked about her so much?
I mean, really, like I talked about her because just from a plot standpoint, I like that element, but she's not a major part of this film. I mean, she's fine. She played Supergirl for years on TV. She was just in the Netflix show The Waterfront, which is not very good, but I think was popular. Maybe I'll have another season. She's done a lot of TV work, and she started on Glee. I think that's, she's done well there. But
she's in a really good indie called Band of Robbers. I really like that movie.
I haven't seen that.
Band of Robbers, isn't that the name of, if you translate the Godard movie? Isn't that what that is?
Oh. No, I don't think it's Robbers. It's band. It's just Band Apart, I think.
Yeah, you're probably right.
I'm not sure.
Band of Thieves, maybe? It's probably a band of.
Yeah, I don't think it's Robbers, but that's not related to that.
Well.
It's the earlier movie from the Nee brothers who made that The Lost City with Sandra Bullock. But but it's actually really good. I liked it.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right. Well, on that note, that is Whiplash, and that is this episode of Awesome Movie Year. You can check out our tempo online and on social media.
It needs help. All of our tempos need help. We're at awesomemovieyear.com, Awesome Movie Year on Facebook and the Gram. Still not on Twitter. You suck, Elon Musk. I'm Jason Harris Comedy, or Jay Harris Comedy on all the things. Go for Jason on Letterboxd. Always appreciate the feedback.
You can find some old things from me at joshbellhateseverything.com. I am at Josh Bell Hates Everything on Facebook, at Signal Bleed on Blue Sky and Letterboxd. And if you're on Letterboxd and you watch this film or any of the movies we discuss on the show, tag your review Awesome Movie Year. We would love to know what you think. And check out our producer David Rosen's awesome podcast, Piecing It Together.
Check out Piecing It Together wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow us on social media at Piecing Pod. And if you like jazz, come down to Wax Trax Records.
Yeah,
we have an entire room full of classic jazz, original pressings, all kinds of stuff. You will love it.
And Dave has never been on Rick Rosen's tempo.
No, he's really not that far off from this guy, but yeah.
Jason, what's in our next episode?
Josh, you're going to be miserable because it's an Iñárritu film. It was the best picture of 2014. I said it back then. I bet I'll say it again. It shouldn't have been. It's Birdman.
So tune in next time for Birdman. And thanks for listening to Awesome Movie Year.
Thank you for listening to Awesome Movie Year. Make sure to follow Awesome Movie Year on Facebook, at Awesome Movie Pod on Twitter, and at Awesome Movie Year on Instagram. And if you like the show, review us and rate us with 5 stars on Apple Podcasts.
An All Points West production, produced by David Rosen in Las Vegas.